Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's the review of the round 5 victory over the Newcastle Knights. It's 5 from 5 for the Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs, and very relieved to get away with that victory. Have to say it, a lot of things in our favour from the opening minute, with the Knights losing 2 players. It was always going to be a very tough battle from them for the rest of the game, and essentially we were running downhill, and never looked troubled in as far as conceding points, but we did struggle to score a lot of points ourselves. But I'm going to go into that. I don't think it's as bad as it seems. And it was just one of those games at Accor. I was noticing in the New South Wales Cup game, it was sort of just becoming one of those dour sort of days. The way the ground was, it seemed like it was a bit, I don't know, it just wasn't good conditions for free-flowing football for some reason. And I've seen that at Accor Stadium plenty of times. But we'll talk about this game. Lots to talk about. I really want to get stuck into a discussion about Leo Thompson, the return of Jacob Carraz as announced by the Dogfather yet again. But that's all right. That's all right. It's easy to put 2 and 2 together if you watch for the signals and the signs. They are there. So I'm no genius, I can tell you that much. But well done to all the players out there. It's hard to single out any player when you have such a team performance across many areas. But we'll look through some of the stats, some of the highlights, and also look ahead to the next part of our season. So if you break the season down into quarters, we've probably that first 6 games is basically the first quarter of the season, and we're about to embark on the second quarter. So let's have a look at some of the stats. The Dogs 20, the Knights 0. It says the attendance was 24,000. It's funny how they kept talking it up as being over 30. So that was interesting. Very, very interesting. It seemed like there was at least 30 there. No tries in the first half. It was 2-0 at half time. Crossland sin bin just after half time made it very difficult for them. Even more difficult. And let's get stuck into some of the stats straight away. But before we do, I just want to say, well done to Leo Thompson. What an audition for the Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs, I must say. Now, look, the entire Knights team had to play much longer minutes, with Schiller and Saifidi ruled out very quickly indeed. But let's have a look at Leo Thompson in this performance before we focus on our own. So he's 186 centimetres, so about 6'1", 107 kilos. So he's not much bigger than Jack Todd or Max King as far as weight goes. And people are actually starting to, like, when you fall in love with the players in our side, you're like, well, how do we fit this fella in? And why'd we go and pay big money for him? Well, I'll tell you why. He's only had 66 games. He averages 111 metres over 66 matches as a young fella. He's not that old. He's only 25 this year. And defensively has been an absolute champion this year in his 2 games that he's had to play. So it hasn't got his Knights performance there yet. He played 52 minutes against the Tigers and 35 against the Dolphins. Against the Bulldogs, he has just played. They obviously haven't updated it yet, so I'll need to do that. He has played 72 minutes, Leo Thompson. 72 minutes 14 hit-ups, 112 metres. Now, in a side that had about 30% possession in the first half, and he played the entire first half. I think he had a small break for 8 minutes, come back on to play another 32. He's got 49 of his 112 in post contact in a team that had no ball. He had no Jacob Saifidi there to sort of share the role and put that punch in the defence first. Average play the ball speed really good, 3.5 for the amount of minutes and work that he did. He had 46 tackles with only one missed, a few ineffective. That's insane for a front rower. Had one error. He gave away 2 penalties. Oh, he played 72 minutes straight. So there you go. Now, look, I know as a team that's what they required of him, and he did it. But when I look at Max King was running downhill in that match and played 61 minutes, probably could have played longer if he wanted to or needed to. You know, and we had a lot of field position where you utilise your forwards more when you're in that opposition's third rather than ours. And I'm just so impressed with Leo Thompson. And when you sit there and go Leo Thompson, Max King, you're talking front row pack. And then being relieved by the likes of Curran, Tupanua, Harry Hayes. Well, good times ahead. And just the amount of depth there that will carry on to next year and players coming through like Jack Underhill and Jack Todd. Wow, 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 wow. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Right? We'll look at the team stats. We had 57% possession. So they got a bit greater share of it in the second half. Completions 39 from 50 versus 30 from 39. 11 more sets with the footy. That's insane. Smashed them in the run meters, post contact. 2 line breaks to 1. Tough to make a line break out there. 5 meters more per set. You know, we lost the play the ball. And honestly, like, the refs obviously felt a bit sorry for the Knights. You know, I know they sin bin one, but it was deserved. It's a trip, and it was blatant. But 3 point, they were allowed to lay all over us. Cogger should have been sin binned when we made that break, and he held us up in front of the post. Like, that was ridiculous. It was just play on. You know, all I know is that if we were the team that had lost 2 players and Jared Sutton was a ref, he just would have sent another 2 of us to the bin. No doubt about it. Under those scenarios. And I've seen that happen. When a lot of refs will give a bit more leniency to a team that's really struggling, like the Knights were for the entire match. And they were allowed to lay over us a lot more. And that was the result. The fact they only conceded 8 penalties and 4 ruck infringements when we dominated possession, and for us to concede 7, some of our discipline was pretty poor at different times. 14 errors to 15, you know, they frustrated us a little bit as well. But from the opening minutes, they looked rattled, the Knights. And a play like, look, I talked a lot about Bradman Best being ahead of Bronson Cherry for New South Wales Origin selection. Well, I think I need to retract that statement, because Bradman Best, unless he's carrying an injury, he was just getting driven back by our side the entire game. He had some moments and some tough moments as well, and some good defensive moments, but he wasn't able to inject himself at all to really help his team too often. Whereas Bronson Cherry has done that numerous times this year. So I'll retract that statement. And yeah, Bradman Best, a bit of the gag eyes about him. You know, like in New South Wales at Origin, he'd never get driven back like that consistently, the way the Dogs did to him last night. So, like Gagai plays for Queensland, grows an extra leg and an arm, and you know, grows a third head instead of having two heads. But look, the keys to victory in this game, we had a clear target. You know, it's funny, we targeted Matthew Feeney numerous times. Smashed him catching the ball. Rather than compete in every play. Carraz competed on the majority of these ones. To really only concede one try from that bombing meant that while they didn't defuse many, and we got possession a couple of times, it wasn't too bad of an effort really from Marju, considering Carraz was all over him the entire night. Like, I would have expected a couple more tries to come from that, from the amount of times we targeted them. But that competing for the ball, look, we just played another style again. And Toby ran the ball really hard. So let's get into the player stats. We're more focused on the Bulldogs. Max King, 60 minutes, was a star. Jacob Carraz, obviously 80. 17 runs for Carraz, 178 metres. King, 18 runs, 179 metres. Wow. 81 post-contact, 64 for Jacob. I just love the first run from Jacob Carraz in the match. Just showed me why the Serrato put him in. It was an important run. I think he got 5 offloads for the game as well. So his offloading ability, a lot of competing for the football, a lot of jumping. He's making up for lost time. And, yeah, really good effort by Carraz. 6 tackles, no misses. 3 handling errors, obviously competing. Gave away 2 penalties. So, yes, Jacob Carraz. But it just, yet again, round 1, we kicked to the left edge. 1 kicker all day. You know, round 5, we're kicking to the right edge. 1 kicker all day. I think Bailey Haywood only maybe had 1 kick. So we'll double check on that. Kicking meters, Sexton 355, Haywood 75, Reed Barney 102, Critter a couple of grubbers. 2 stints for Max, 31 before young Jack Todd come on. Jack played 20 minutes, which was 4 minutes more than his previous game, but every right to play those extra minutes because, you know, the strategy in this game, and look, whilst they've obviously left points out there and we were playing way too sideways in that first half, you have to understand also what they were doing. They were shifting side to side to really tire that Knights team out, which they knew only had 2 interchange players. They kept forcing them to tackle. They offloaded. They made them have to play more and tackle more and chase more. And we starved them of possession. So we led 2-0. And part of you goes, oh, nothing's easy for this side. And, you know, the Knights must be drawing confidence out of that. But we just literally drained them of their entire fuel reserves, and it didn't take long. And talking with some mates, the All Things Bulldogs crew at half time, and we're talking about, they've got to go through the middle, and the little men need to get into dummy half and get some second phase. And they got straight to work in the second half. We score straight away because based off doing that sort of stuff, and then bringing that leg speed of and footwork of players like Mann, and Mann was our most creative player again in the first half. Where he's able to almost run to the line, back away from it, step off the left foot sometimes 2 or 3 times, jig back to the right, go around, and then link up with someone. That is a very elusive player, and when he decides to run, he punches through and gets away a pretty quick play the ball. I'm preaching to the choir, I know. But he had 18 runs yesterday for 123 metres. So look, I really do believe that we left a lot of points out there, and that'll be a concern for the club. But as I said in the preview, they were going to be willing to risk that game, or to be not at their best for that game. And not saying they've got excuses not to win and all this sort of shit. But I think the easy play would have just been to let Carraz have another week out. And, run with Curtis Moran on the bench. But instead, they brought in a bench player for cover, and it turned out that's all he was there for. I really believe if Blake Taft got to go at the either end of the first half and second half, and more in that second half, through that middle period, I think we would have scored some points, because that sort of game would suit him immensely, to get into dummy half and run, to get out the back of shape at sometimes, to utilise his kicking, whatever it is. He would have got something flowing for the Dogs, because he's just that type of player. But they didn't need to do it, and this is what I like about Serrato. He's like, we don't need to put the foot on the jugular. We've got the foot there. We don't have to, kick their head off completely. We're just going to keep grinding. We're going to keep playing for 80 minutes. And we're going to stick to the plan, because we're in control. And the plan was for Carraz to compete on every ball. The plan was to maintain that, kick chase and ensuring that their wingers and back three had no latitude whatsoever, and we barely gave them anything. The fact they lost Schiller on the first hit, and he got hit hard even before the head contact. Like, I felt sorry for the guy. It's not a good look when blood's pouring out of your ear. That's very unfortunate, but that's our game of rugby league. And I was really worried that they were going to somehow sin bin or send off our player for a head contact or something. And Saluka Fafita, he got to have a bit of fun out there on the weekend. He had 13 runs, 115 metres, 53 post contact. Managed to make himself, He had 16 tackles, 5 missed, which wasn't too good. But he was flying off the line. Josh Curran playing on the edge, flying out hard. What I did notice in that second half is that Salmon actually moved out into the edge for a bit, especially in defence. And Presto got in there in the middle, defended a lot. And Jacob Preston, although he wasn't really involved in many try-scoring plays, that run that he got before Jack Todd scores his try, and congratulations to Jack Todd on his debut or his second game and scoring a try. It was a run of Preston and the play the ball, and Marnie just picks him straight out, bang, straight through the middle. I saw Leo Thompson actually rushed to get into marker and sort of pull Ponga back, because he could sense what was happening, but we just hit the space straight away. So I don't know if they would have been better if Thompson got in the line and left the two markers there. Meaning that Ponga would have been at dummy half. Would have been at marker. But yeah, it's all from Preston, and I felt his efforts in defence and with the ball were phenomenal yet again. And what a star we have in our side. Another good effort by Jamin Salmon, and especially a good effort by Kurt Mann. Look, every player, you just go and say, well done. Our back three had a field day. Montoya, 19 runs, 171 metres. Cherry, 21 runs, 211 metres. Tracy, 22 runs, 188. And Toby Sexton, 19 runs, 125 metres. Hayward had some good efforts too, running the ball, ran from dummy half at times, sometimes under pressure from the defence, so didn't pass and ran the footy. Joshy Curran worked hard yet again. Probably not one of his best games. A couple of errors, which didn't help us. And Harry Hayes continues to build himself up as a prop, So, look, Jack Todd, 20 minutes. Obviously, they were planning for King to try and play as many minutes as he can. And they were going to have an extra rotation there with a 3-man bench, essentially, for the forwards rather than a 4-man bench. And that meant that, it was always likely Jack was only going to play 15 to 20 minutes. And the fact we had all that possession, and he did some good work in that second half defensively, I must say. Had some, but this is all good for him. It's all about getting him seasoning, aging him, and getting him ready for the rigours. He's going to be someone with his size that they have to keep, building his fitness up and building his minutes. He's just not going to come on and be a 60-minute forward from nowhere. I shouldn't discount these things, but that's just the way it is. Where Harry Hayes, lighter body, who's building himself up, getting a bit heavier as he gets older, more muscle, more seasoned, knows his diet, really evolving from that boy into that man. And his minutes already sort of doing the 40, 45 minutes on his ear. Eventually he will be able to play much longer minutes as well. And look, if you put him on an edge, I'm sure he'd be able to play 80 minutes if he played on an edge, because he could do that as well. They're just the versatility they've got with this side and with these players. You look at our top 30. Big Mark was saying, he expects that Cameron Serrato loves this top 30 and Thompson will be the only person that comes in as a change in it. I have no doubt he loves the top 30, but he definitely won't be keeping everyone there. There'll be at least 4 departures at the end of the season from the current top 30. And I expect the majority of those to be replaced by juniors within the club, and some that have sort of already been extended may get extended again. Like a Jack Underhill, the way he's going and the minutes he's playing in New South Wales Cup, and the fact that he's got a real engine and someone that I expect will be able to get to NRL and play the same amount of minutes once he's used to it. And he's watching New South Wales Cup. We're a lot better, a lot tougher opponent when he's out on the field, I can tell you that much. Tom Amone played 20 minutes in New South Wales Cup, just as a side note. Started the game, has been coming off the bench, played quite well, and then came on again late for a second stint. But, and Tia and O'Neill were the halves for most of the match. When we fell behind and needed to catch up, they brought Drew back into the halves, and he definitely helped. But it was a Cassius Tia 40-20, which got us positioned for Wilson to score the winning try. So well done. Wilson did all right at fullback. Will only get better the more he plays there. More on this game. So look, again, we've just gone out there and tried to grind a team into submission that was already suffering from the start of the match. That, to me, shows just so much temperament. They went for some plays on that edge, which I'm like, on both edges. A couple of times down Critter's side and Cherry's side, getting bundled into touch. Sort of playing it, obviously had a game plan to do some of this stuff, but it just wasn't happening. It was as if the ground was skinnier than it was. Both sides struggled to get on the outside of each other, and it just comes down to a call. One of those days at a call in those conditions. It's just like the ground just feels like it's hard to get through. I don't know. Everyone's a bit slower. No one pins the ears back and goes for the try line. Faster tracks. I think, Knights might even score some points, and I think we definitely score a lot more points in that sort of scenario. But yeah, I'm not looking too far ahead as far as getting excited we're going to win the comp or anything like that. I think we still have a huge amount of improvement in us as a top 30. So like looking at the players in this side, they're all getting good, doing great things. In a game like that, we just had a lot of people have added to their, average statistics in a good way for the most part. But, Critter's nowhere near at his best. Now, people have said that there's been some issue. He's been carrying an injury. He's come out and said that he went on the carnivore diet, and he was sort of going through that the first couple of rounds, and then sort of basically had to pull the plug on it because he's cramping up and his body wasn't handling the change at that point of the season. So, and last week's game was a lot more involvement. It had 15 hit-ups, 24 tackles, something like that. A much more involved game against the Sharks. Like, he really stepped up. And then he got that nerve injury again, which he suffered last year. We could see that popped up. So, he's hit with the left, and he's got issues on the right-hand side, So, yeah, I'm pretty sure his issue has been the cramping up. And not in just one muscle, in a whole bunch. Just from... so, he's back on the carbs. And he will benefit a lot from having another week. Having this week. The buys come at the really good time for our club, I believe, with the injuries that we've got. And look, it was imperative to get Jacob Carraz in there, and he's going to be heaps better for that run. He did a great job already, and he's obviously making up for lost time. We hope that the next game he's, ready to get to work and go even harder and go longer. And I know he plays 80 minutes, but what I mean is that there's still some things there where he's a bit off. So his timing will be better, and I think the cohesion will be better once they get to Accor for the Good Friday match in the afternoon. Hopefully a bit drier and a bit of a faster match, which will suit both sides, I believe, and make for a good game of rugby league. Really happy with how everybody went, as I said. And looking ahead, guys, it's going to be quite difficult for Serrano, and he said this in the presser. He's going to have to make some tough decisions. So let's say Burton and Kickow are back for the Bunnies. That means your team will be Connor Tracy, Jacob Carraz on the right edge, right centre, Stephen Crichton, left centre, Bronson Cherry, left wing, Marcello Montoya, Burton at 5'8", Sexton at halfback, King and Curran, I believe, will be your front rowers. Your hooker, Reid Marnie, of course. Viliami Kickow, left edge. Jacob Preston goes back to the right edge. Lock, Jamin Salmon will maintain that spot. Kurt Mann, the 14. Then you'll have Harry Hayes will be the replacement for Curran or King. So you'll have, I think Harry will be Curran's replacement, and Tupanua will be Max King's replacement, because that's the way they've been doing it. Not sure who will come off first. They should be able to play some longer minutes and allow our players in Tupanua and Harry Hayes to come off that bench. And the 17 will be Bailey Hayward. So that'll be your 17, right? That's your team. And then you look ahead to next year, you expect that everyone in that 17 is going to be in our squad next year, right? So the player that will drop out for Leo Thompson, who will that be? Very hard decisions ahead. Now, Sam Hughes is to come back in a few weeks as well. I think he may have to start with a gaming cup. And they'll have to assess his fitness and see where he's at to see whether he slots ahead of Daniel Saluka Fafita and Curtis Moran and Jack Todd. But, you know, we are getting excited about these youngsters, and you look at a player like Curtis Moran and you go, how do we find a spot for him? Unless there's injuries, which we don't want injuries. Or hopefully a good rotation policy. We can keep winning games and trust players to come up and definitely do the job. But, you know, Curtis Moran is a Bulldog. And we might have to see another Bulldog get an opportunity and get some more money and showing some real value at another club. And that really fucking sucks. But this is why I'm club first, always, you know. I love this entire team. I love this club. And there's a heap of players like Preston and Carraz. I couldn't imagine them playing for another club. I can't imagine Burton going to another club. I can't imagine Critter being allowed to go to another club. And even when I look at the game and his leadership, you know, after the game in the sheds, leader is servant, lead by example. You know, he's not one of these managers at a club who sees a broken glass on the floor. He's the first to notice it, and he goes and tells someone from the bar to go clean it up. You know, he's not one of them dickheads. He's someone who sees a mess on the ground. He goes and cleans it up. He doesn't go tell someone else to fucking do it. Does it himself. And he leads by example. So the people around him, he doesn't complain. He just does it with a smile. And what he's looking for is that next time the people around him are the ones who are going to go clean it up first. And that's what he did after they had their celebrations last night. There was footage of him, you know, just enacting the clean-up. He wasn't waiting for staff or other people to come in and clean up their mess. He started doing it. And that's a sign of a real fucking leader right there. And I know that's how I was. Or how I wanted to be anyway. That's how I wanted to be perceived as a coach and as a manager, as a leader, whatever. You have to fucking just, if something needs doing, don't tell someone else to fucking do it. Do it yourself. Right? Bit different with kids though. Because kids will just let you do it. And then they won't learn. So you've sort of got to teach them that. But there's lots you can lead by example with kids though. And they will learn from that. But not cleaning up. My big tip, if you're going to clean up, don't make a big deal of it in front of your kids. Enjoy it. Feel good about it. If you sit there and curse at it, of course they're not going to want to do it. Anyway, that advice is for free. If you do want to pay me for that advice, like, subscribe. Oh, here we go. Laughing at myself. Oh, super thanks. You can do that. pay to write a comment. Can't believe there's podcast. I know I've got some, but I never instigated it. Can't believe there's podcasts where they only show their comments when they pay for it. Unbelievable. Not at all things Bulldogs. So yeah, guys, phenomenal victory by the Bulldogs. The Knights sort of allowed to lay all over us. But, you know, you can't begrudge them with how hard they worked and what they were up against. And that's, you know, the Dogs need to understand that they need, hopefully they're quite aware that they've left a lot of food on the table there, a lot of tries on the field, and they need to make sure they're not as wasteful when they come up against other sides. But, you know, I honestly believe we've got a coach there, from what I've seen these 5 rounds, and then I go back over the last couple of years, and I see so many similarities in what this coach has done with different strategies and different days, and sticking to things that you're like, that's not working, why aren't you changing it? But to see this variation emerge, and where they're like, we don't need to pull out our machine gun if we're winning the knife fight, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? He's like, we're 2-0 up. Obviously, we wanted to score some points, but we've worked them over so much across on both sides of the field. Everyone's having to double up on tackles. There's been offloads. We've made them work their ass off. They're tired. They're probably, the way, you know, Murphy's law or whatever it is, or the law of averages, they're going to get some more possession in the second half. But we just have to keep doing what we're doing. We'll rattle them into error, which we did. They could barely put a set together. You know, especially in attack, they really struggled because of how tired they were. And it was like, just keep working it, start working through the middle, running hard through the middle, some short passes, we'll get some points. Keep competing out wide, keep working on that, because we need to keep working for that. We need to give Carraz that timing, that practice. The more we do it, the better he's going to get at it in that game scenario, navigating the opposition and whatever else. No clear run of the ball. They're like, we're in a knife fight, let's win the knife fight. They didn't need to unleash the level of strategy when it comes to attack that they did against the Sharks. Just doing some moves and doing some stuff that the Sharks didn't expect. And I expect that the intent will be to go out there against the Rabbits and do much of the same as what they've been doing. They'll have a specific plan in mind, and what they will do is, you know, enact that. But through the game, I do believe they're like, I'm sure they'd be like, hold back on that play. We'll keep it. We don't need it, you know. They're not into sitting there blowing teams off the park and having semantics look really good. It's about building this season up so that they've got the ability to break teams down over an entire season. And we've seen that with the likes of the Panthers. I don't know, I'll keep going back to them, but they're the yardstick. 4 in a row. 5 grand finals in a row. And you've watched them through the season win games, only just win a lot of games, blow some other teams apart, like late in games, because of they've sort of ground them into submission. And then get into the really big games and produce stuff which teams just aren't ready for, that they haven't seen. And I can see that about the Bulldogs. I can see very similar stuff. Like, the cards aren't all on the table. They got to keep some up their sleeve for when they're needed. And I expect the Broncos game is where we will see, because I can't wait to preview that game, because I know what they're going to throw at us. they're not the same team that we played and smashed last year. And forget about the fucking coach. Wouldn't care if it was Madge Maguire or Kevin Walters. They've got the experience across the park and the skill across the park to win this competition. And they've got the ability to go out there and flog Melbourne. They've actually got a comparable spine, and their forward pack and the skill that they've got in their outside backs, I think, rivals the Storm. I think the Broncos are going to be the toughest team to beat. I do. Melbourne will obviously be tough, and Penrith against us are going to go hard. You know, you got to beat Penrith, and every team that's playing this year has had to beat them. And, you know, in high-scoring affairs. But this Broncos game, I expect the Broncos are going to see some stuff from us that they haven't seen. But I know what the Broncos will be throwing at us. You know, they've got no fear when it comes... Adam Reynolds' kicking game for Cobbo and the like, and just putting... I expect our left edge, which has only conceded one try all season in 5 rounds, come round 8, is going to be under the fucking pump. Big time. And we'll see how good they are then. Once they'll try and get Viliami tired and overcommitted in many, and then they're going to run, and then they're going to kick, and then they're going to run, and they're going to kick, and Marcelo Montoya will be getting one of the toughest games he's ever had in his life come round 8. And I think we can handle it. Go to Suncorp and put in a good performance, win or lose, and be proud of our side. Anyway, getting ahead of myself, this is a review, and I've started a preview of a game 2 or 3 weeks away already. So, in love with this side, in love with this club, and a big week for the Bulldogs. We won New South Wales Cup by 2 points in a frustrating game with some really good green shoots, but obviously a lot of changes in the side, which made it hard for cohesion at different times, which is just business as usual for that grade. We won Jersey Flegg. We won SG Ball. Really good effort by Harold Matts against a top 2 side, team coming second or equal first, who's been going great guns. And we led that team, I think, 2 tries to 1, 3 tries to 1 or something. We couldn't kick a goal. I think it was 5 tries all, but we lost 30-18. We won Ron Massey, which was a big win. And the hooker, Oscar Bryant, very, very good in attack. Obviously, we've got a lot of hookers there we've got to develop. There's a couple of others. I forgot he was playing as well. Come off the bench. Very good player. And Ragiri Warwick is too good for that class. But, good for them to get their first win. Sydney Shield, they got absolutely smashed. But Ron Massey had a win, which was fantastic to see. And one of our girls, Tasha Gale, lost to Parramatta, which sucked in a close match by 2 points, I think. But Lisa Fiola are well and truly on their way to hopefully winning that competition. So, guys, that's my wrap-up. I have talked a lot in this review, but there is a lot that I want to say and like about this team and about this club. Every single player in it is contributing well. It sucks that we're going to have to see a few of these guys go and see a few of these young kids disappear as well that are coming along. But, part of me just hopes Toby Sexton gets signed up. It'd be nice to see reports come in over the bye period that he has re-signed, leading into the South match or something like that. I would love to hear that. Obviously no mail on that. And well done to the entire team, all the players, all the club. 5 in a row is a phenomenal effort in any era, for any team. against a lot of sides. Nothing has come easy. We've earned every single point we've scored, and let's have a look at the ladder just to have a nice fucking look at it. Played 5, 10 points. We will go to 12 points, 124 points scored, and 58 against for the equal difference of with the Broncos with 66. We've got the 4th best attack and the best defense in the competition, which is a wonderful effort by our boys. Our average winning margin is 13.2 points. We've won 4 games at night this year, although they've been more so twilights, and a one-day game. Looking into next week, Dolphins play Panthers. Don't know who's going to win that at this stage. Dragons and Titans could be anyone. I want to see it continue to compress around this bottom of the ladder and the middle of the ladder there. It's always a good thing when you're up at the top to see more compression. You'd love to see the Roosters get up and beat the Broncos this week. And they could do it. It's going to be very tough for them to do it, though. Sharks and Seagulls. A crunch game for both sides. I'd probably want to see the Sharks beat the Seagulls on this occasion. Keeps them both on 6 points. Rabbitohs and Cowboys. I want the Cowboys to get that win. Rabbitohs are on 8 points with 4 wins and 1 loss, but I think they're only +4. So they're only just getting these wins, the Rabbits, but building confidence while they do it. And Wayne Bennett makes them think that they're a better side than they are. Now, they're without Humphreys, Cody Walker, and Ravalawa. So, but I'll tell you what, there's a player for Souths that come from the Dolphins, and he was phenomenal on the weekend. Hubner. What a fucking effort that was, I must say. If anyone from another team could ever come into our club and fit right in, it's him. I'll tell you that fucking right now. But we don't need him, but I'm just saying. You think Raiders are going to beat the Eels, but Eels got to win. They're off on the board. Great to see them beat the Dragons. I was happy about that. I hate both sides, both clubs. But with a lot of Bulldogs players that I really like in the Eels team, like Joash Papali and the Fox, I was happy to see them get that win in Golden Point. Now, Storm Warriors, so that sucks because that's a team that's on 8. Both sides are on 8 points, so that's going to elevate them to second on the ladder, whoever wins, or keep their position at second. Probably hoping it's the Warriors, to be honest, because, we want to, if there's a chance to win a fucking minor premiership, you want to win it. And the Knights versus the Tigers, probably want the Tigers to get on equal points with the Knights, and that's how I look at the ladders every week. I know who I favour based on my heart and who I hate, but when it comes to the ladder and us, and I look at each game and, well, look, really, we should just keep looking ahead and not care about other teams' results, and because we just have to be better than everyone. That's the whole thing. But sometimes you don't get some luck and things happen. We might get some people in Origin. Having those little buffers can be essential. If you lose some players to Origin, then cop a couple of injuries and drop a couple of games that you're expected to win. This happens to top teams all the time. And whilst I have no doubt we are going to next man up mentality and no excuses, which is fantastic to finally sort of say that stuff, it's always good if results go your way every single sort of fucking week. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. The Bulldogs on top of the ladder. It's a great thing to see. And, big round of games coming up. We play the Rabbitohs at Accor, 4:05 p.m. on Friday the 18th. Good Friday. We then play the backup on the Thursday night against the Broncos in a game which is already nearly sold out at Lang Park. So, fuck me. That's going to be a hostile environment, and there's already a lot of dogs who have bought tickets. I'd expect to see that there's between 8 and 12,000 Bulldog supporters at that game. Now, the Dogs and the Titans at Magic Round on the Sunday, 4th of May. Truly hope we can break that curse. And then we go down to the Raiders for a Saturday match, 6 days later, short turnaround at GIO Stadium, 3 p.m, good time to play Canberra. Before coming back home to play the Roosters at Accor on the Friday night. So some 6-day turnarounds back to back. No 5-day turnarounds for us though. And then we're going Dolphins at Accor before another bye. You know, so look, round 12 is the second quarter of our season, really. Halfway's not officially till you're not over halfway till round 14. But we would have had, and the fact we've had 2 byes, it's probably round 15 for us. But I'd still mark that as the second part of our season because we get to round 14, and that's where we start the second half against the Eels on a Monday. So a really long break after the bye. After we play the Dolphins at Accor. You know, dare to fucking dream. Dare to dream. My hope is that we win, you know, don't drop more than 2 games against South Broncos, Titans and Raiders. Win all 4, no fucking problem. And then we've got Roosters and Dolphins. So in that 6-game block, if we're winning 4 of those 6 games, we're in a really good fucking position. That would put us, you know, after the bye and leading into round 14 on 9 wins and 2 byes, that'd be 22 points. So we'd only be 3 wins away from making top 8. And, you know, and that's with half the season to run. We can do it. This side can do it. And who's to say they can't be, you know, 12 wins and 2 byes after 14 rounds? Who's to say they can't? Right? Who's to say they can't? But we will see. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening to the review. Tell me your thoughts. I've given you my team that I think will roll out against South Sydney if Kickour's healthy. It'll be back to a man and Haywood as a small bench. And I believe there'll be a choice between keeping Harry Hayes and Daniel Saluka-Fafita. I think Hayes will get the go ahead based on the minutes he can play in defence and the fact that he's getting the job done as far as his meters and his work and making his tackles and doing all that sort of thing. The big man, King's our big man at the moment. And it's good having a bloke like Saluka-Fafita who can sit there. And he played well yesterday. And big congratulations to him. And if he gets picked ahead of Hayes or anyone, I won't begrudge it. In some people's minds, they're like, well, you could never drop Harry Hayes or Bailey Haywood ever again. I'm like, well, you can. Means you've got a really good club and a good top 30 if those players can't make the side that have earned their spots and deserve to play NRL every week. But when you buy a player like Leo Thompson, he's already past that level. And you get a player like Leo Thompson in our club. Well, they bought Tom Amone, right? And I'm sure there was a lot of people there who would have thought, okay, well, he goes ahead of Harry Hayes. He goes ahead of Haywood. He definitely goes ahead of Salmon. He goes ahead of probably Saluka-Fafita and maybe ahead of Sam Hughes. That's what they think. he comes, he gets as close to as fit as he's ever been, from all reports, hitting KPIs he hasn't hit, and he's not at their level. They've gone to a level beyond that. So what it is your players that are there that are under contract or fighting for their contract, whatever it is, see the challenge and say, well, I'm going to be better, and force themselves to be picked. And that is what this club is now being built on. But I don't care what anyone says. Well, I do care what you say, I guess, but it's not going to change my thoughts on this, because this is the actions of our club. Leo Thompson falls into that group, and some say it's the cool group or whatever else, but they're not dropping Reed Marnie. They're not dropping Matty Burton. You know, Sexton will fall into that position soon. But they might, if he has some bad games, they might say, well, look, we'll put Hayward there. And he can develop as the half, because he's ready. He can handle the contact. He can kick. He can play right edge if he wants. He can play left. Doesn't matter. Play in the middle. But the cool club, Tupanua, Critter, Karaz, Preston, Kickow, they're picked. And Leo Thompson will be part of that club. And I don't say it like in a negative way. It's just they're the players that have earned the contracts, and everything they do on the field, whether they're with Canterbury now or not, shows that they're worth every cent. And if you watch that Leo Thompson's performance on the weekend, for a team that had hardly any possession, the amount of tackles he made, the way he kept turning up to play 72 minutes straight, is just phenomenal. And if I transfer that, and if I look at our team, I go, who can play 72 minutes straight? Well, some probably can, if they had to, but would they do it as effectively as that, is the question I ask. And whilst they might have the potential to do that, right now I don't think they could. So, but really, I shouldn't be writing off or diminishing anyone's ability to do anything in our club, because there's such a there's such a commitment to getting better and improving and really playing for each other and playing for themselves and their families and for us. Yeah, some real headaches for the coach. A lot of headaches for the coach. And a lot of hype around Jack Todd. And I love it. I did a big video on him to start the year. Can't wait for him to be a permanent member of the squad. But for him to be there permanently, who do you take out? But I think the real one they got to watch is Jack Underhill. But, we've got a pair of Jacks playing Yuko. We've got the left and the right bower. But they're coming. They'll be there soon. Anyway. Thanks for listening, guys. Been a bit of a long review, but I'm fired up and loving it. I've got my new hat on. Thank you, Bulldogs team store. Got my new... I'll tell you what, I've got to lose some weight because these O'Neill's jerseys aren't fucking big, that's for sure. They brought out a 6XL, which I hadn't seen in the Bulldogs stores forever. Probably to fit all the 5XL people that have been happily in 5XL for many years. Now can't fit into it. And even the 6XL was a bit of a struggle for me. So, but this is a 5XL that I'm wearing. It fits beautifully. It's lovely, and it's they've done a good job, I feel, with the jumpers and the hoodies and stuff. So here we go. Look at it. Perfect. And I love this hat. Fits my big head, which is important, because not a lot of those caps bloody don't. Anyway, I've been rambling on. It's now an hour. Thanks for tuning in, and go the fucking Bulldogs. Sorry for swearing.